Good day, all you photons, electrons, and other quantum particles. It's time
for my return.
So last year I came out with the first video that I actually put any effort into. This video was a list of my 10 favorite games I played throughout the year 2020. Now this year I want to do the same thing, except I'm facing a bit of a dilemma. I completed 21 games this year, and almost all of them deserve to be on the list, as they are all just overall good experiences. But that just doesn't add up. So I'm going to cheat a little bit and make this my top 15 games of 2021. Before I begin, I would like to note that this list is entirely objective. Everything you see here is the correct opinion, and all other opinions will be discarded. So let's get into it, shall we? Earlier this year, I received 3 months of Xbox Game Pass PC for free, and among the list of games was one I had heard was a banger. This was Katana Zero. I played through the game once, and I enjoyed it the whole way through. In the game, you play as Zero, a strange man with sick katana skills. I won't disclose much of the story as it is best experienced yourself, but I will say that the gameplay alone is super fun. Just take a look at this awesome clip I got from the game. You cannot tell me that this doesn't look sick. But the story is also very good, and the ending was a huge, revealing eye-opener, and it hit hard. If you like fast-paced games at all, go play this one. F.I.S.H is a charming little rhythm game created by the man himself, Timotainment. I got this game for like $5 on sale one day just because why not, and I was surprised when the game was actually quite fun. I don't tend to like rhythm games that much, but this one was simple and pretty good. To add to it, there's a fun little subplot about Spaghetti Night, which is surprisingly interesting. Like, I've genuinely made theories about it. Anyways, if you have $10 to spare and are bored one day, you might as well pick it up. It's not doing you any harm. I hate first-person shooters. That's just kind of how I am. I'm just kind of silly and quirky like that. Most of them all play out the same, and I'm not good at them, so that definitely adds to it. But this year, I decided to try out Ultrakill. I saw a friend playing it, and it looked really cool. And oh my god, this is a very fun game. Ultrakill is the only shooter I have ever played unironically and enjoyed. Crunker doesn't count. The movement feels really good, the music is really awesome, and all the different areas, enemies, and boss fights are very good. I especially like the fight against Gabriel, as it's just so much fun, combined with the banger music. I cannot wait for this game to be fully released, as it's still in early access. If you like shooters, or hey, even if you hate them, do yourself a favor and go play Ultrakill. The Messenger is a fun 2D pixelated Metroidvania where you play as the Messenger. Kinda. The game starts out as an old retro game similar to Shovel Knight, where you run left to right and smack up guys and bosses and stuff. Once you beat the seemingly final area and boss, you learn that you've actually just beat, essentially, the tutorial. The game suddenly opens up and becomes a full-on Metroidvania game with time travel. You gain the ability to go to the future or the past, and you suddenly go through all the areas you've already been to with newfound goals and abilities. The story is interesting and the gameplay is fun. My only major gripe with this game is the ending, which is kinda lame as it just says, "to be continued," and yet that's a lie. But even with that small dilemma, The Messenger is quite the fun game. The second chapter of Deltarune finally released this year. I've been waiting for a long time to play this. As Undertale was the very first computer game I ever played, it had a huge impact on my life. Now, Chapter 2 of Deltarune took all the things I loved about Chapter 1 and expanded on them, creating a really fun next chapter. There's not much I can really say about this game, but I will say that the ending is so incredible that I am in physical agony that I have to wait another, 3 years before the next chapter? Mortal Shell is a Souls-like game developed by Cold Symmetry. This relatively short game was a very fun experience for me. It took the Dark Souls-esque combat and diluted it a little by removing lots of build variety, but made up for that with its simple yet effective combat system, giving you lots of options to avoid damage such as a parry, a dodge, and a harden. Using these abilities in tandem with one of 4 weapons and one of 4 shells made for some very fun combat encounters. There are only 4 main areas in this game, but by farming out and playing around lots in the first area, I managed to extend the playtime and really get the most out of the game. Contrary to most games though, the bosses were my least favorite part. Although they're still pretty good, they were few and they were decent at best. However, the combat with regular enemies felt much better than most Souls-likes do. If you like Souls-likes and want a quick game to play while you wait for Elden Ring, try this one out. You might just find you love it. The Pathless is an open-world RPG where you play as a hunter who has arrived on a mysterious island. You learn that the main deity of the island's region, the Eagle Mother, has been killed by a creature called the Godslayer, who then took control of Eagle Mother's children and made them his slaves. In this relatively simple game, you traverse areas by sliding and shooting talisman with your bow that give you a short burst of speed and provide you with the stamina you need to be able to slide and run. You go through each area solving puzzles to gain these medals that you use on 3 towers to light a beacon, all while avoiding a massive storm with a boss in stun. If the storm swallows you, you need to go through a quick stealth sequence to escape. At the end of each area, you fight the boss and advance to the next area. The game's unique take on movement is very fun and overall feels very good, and the final boss is a really awesome fight. Also, it's worth noting that Laura Bailey voices the main character, and if you know who that is, you know that's a good thing. Solar Ash, a game developed by Heart Machine, the creators of Hyper Light Drifter, is another open-world RPG where you play as Ray, a Void Runner who enters a massive black hole known as the Ultra Void, which threatens to engulf her home planet and destroy it. Throughout the game, Ray uses super fast-paced movement abilities to fly around and destroy these anomalies that prevent the Starseed, which is supposed to be able to collapse the Ultra Void, from activating. These anomalies are absolutely massive creatures, very reminiscent of Shadow of the Colossus. They're extremely fun to fight, and you feel like an absolute badass when you do. The story is captivating and the music has that good old Hyper Light Drifter vibe we all know and love. After waiting over a year for its release, I can confidently say that it was worth the wait, and I'm glad to be able to play it now. Before Your Eyes is a very unique game that focuses on the story. In this game, you play as Benjamin Bryn, a normal boy living a normal life with his normal family. However, the twist is you are remembering your memories of life to recount a story to the Gatekeeper to gain access to her sanctuary. And every time you blink in real life, you jump forward in time. This had me sitting in my chair, desperately trying to keep my eyes open so as to be able to see the rest of the scene. I felt genuine despair when I blinked occasionally, when in the middle of dialogue or an important event. Adding on to that, the game absolutely broke me. The story is a beautiful callback to reality that really did teach me a valuable lesson and changed the way I see things. I cried at the end because it was a beautiful ending, and because my eyes hurt too. I highly recommend you play this game because it really is an amazing experience. Death's Gambit is 2D pixel Dark Souls. Okay, but for real, this game is a 2D pixelated Souls-like Metroidvania where you play as Soren, a man who was saved from death by Death himself, signing a contract with him to destroy the source of immortality. I am still playing through this game to get the true ending and the bad ending, and I have to say I am loving it. The combat feels awesome, and the story, although a little weird at times, is really captivating. The music is on par with that of the Dark Souls games and really adds to the experience. I'm very excited to finish the true ending and bad ending, as this game is criminally underrated. And now we are getting on to the top 5 games. All the games on this list are good, but these 5 are beyond that. These are the 5 games that affected me the most. Before I move on to those, however, let's get some honorable mentions out of the way. Those being Carry On, Yoku's Island Express, Nier Automata, and Ape Out. These were games that I enjoyed, but couldn't quite find a spot on the list for. The Last Door is a point-and-click RPG with 2 seasons. In Season 1, you play as Jeremiah DeWitt, a man who receives a letter from his school friend Anthony Beechworth. In 4 episodes, you investigate places, follow clues, and learn about your past. In Season 2, you play as Dr. John Wakefield, the psychiatrist and friend of Jeremiah DeWitt. As you and your friend Johann Kaufman follow the disappearance of Jeremiah DeWitt and uncover the mystery of The Last Door. This game, despite being a point-and-click, was a very fun experience. Its story is truly Lovecraftian, and the ending manages to tie everything together. Plot points I thought had been overlooked and were simply there to aid the gameplay were actually explained, and everything eventually made sense. The OST is also very good, composed by Carlos Viola, who managed to create a very atmospheric soundtrack that I want to play on the piano. As a fairly terrifying experience, I recommend anyone who likes a good Lovecraftian story to go play this when you can. Risk of Rain 2 is a roguelike third-person looter-shooter where you play as one of 11 survivors and explore various environments, killing enemies and looting chests for items. Although I played a little bit of the game in 2020, I was playing with people who knew how the game worked already, and weren't very good at explaining things, so I didn't like it all that much. This year, though, I decided to get back into it and teach myself how to play the game. I loved it and began playing tons. That was back in April, and I'm still playing this game today. Like, as you're watching this video, I'm probably playing Risk of Rain. This game is super fun and has tons of awesome mechanics, being a very complicated game to get into. It also has up to 4-player co-op, making it a really great game to just play with your pals. Although the game takes up a lot of commitment to get into, it's worth it. I would know. I normally don't like roguelikes, yet this one, along with Dead Cells, is really damn good. I really wish I could put this game better than number 4, that just isn't possible when competing with the next 3 games. Outer Wilds is absolutely phenomenal. I was recommended it by my man Zach on Discord, who not only shared a similar game interest as me, but also a name. I began this game with some doubts on whether or not I'd enjoy it. After playing for a couple hours, those doubts disappeared entirely. It's almost impossible to talk about how absolutely incredible this game is without spoiling anything, and spoilers are a huge no-no for this game. So I will do my best to convince you to play it without any spoilers. This game's progression is entirely tied to your own knowledge of the game. You start the game knowing next to nothing about it. Then, as you set out on your first expedition, you go somewhere, and you learn something, and you eventually end up dying, and setting out again on another adventure to go learn even more. As you gain the base knowledge needed, you set out to find more secrets about what you've learned. Eventually, you start to uncover secrets of the solar system and its past, and learn of other locations to visit and how to get to them. And you explore, learn more, explore, etc. As you continue to learn more and more, you begin to start piecing things together. You make theories, you think about it, and eventually, you learn the final piece of knowledge needed to beat the game. You go through the process needed to do so, and are rewarded handsomely with the ending. Once you've played Outer Wilds, you can never play it the same way again. That is, unless you buy the DLC and play through that. The DLC ending was one of the best experiences for me in gaming ever, period. Every time I watch it, I cry, and every time I get goosebumps. It's so incredibly perfect in every way that I wish I could be caught in a time loop to repeatedly experience it, forget about it, and experience it again. If you still aren't too sure about getting the game yet, let me sway you a little. In order to convince you to play the game, I have 3 Steam keys for it in my possession, without the DLC. If you want to try the game, DM me on Discord and I will give it to you for free, provided that you can convince me that you will actually play it. My hope is that those of you who want to know more about a game before you buy it won't be afraid to waste money, as they'll be receiving it for free. So again, if you want to play Outer Wilds, DM me, and if I still have keys available, I will give you one. After all of this, can you believe this is only number 3? GRIS was the very first game that I played in 2021. And some of you may remember that I teased this game as being very good at the end of my video in 2020. GRIS is a game about a girl named GRIS, who's experienced some form of trauma, and as such goes through this metaphorical world where everything is an allegory. GRIS has to find her way through this world of grief to come to terms with herself and make it through. As you go through the game, you'll solve puzzles and collect stars that are used to build bridges and gain abilities with your dress. You walk through and experience the world, restoring the color by bringing back one color after each area of the game. Each color enriches the world more, making it feel more alive and more real. You walk through these beautiful environments, listening to beautiful music with beautiful art, and eventually you get to the end. I don't want to say very much more, because this game is best experienced alone in the dark, preferably when you're feeling a little bit sad. GRIS has no dialogue, no NPCs, no side quests, no combat, no difficult platforming, not much traditional mechanical gameplay, but it still makes up for that with its beautiful art, music, story, and everything. The best way I can describe it is the most beautiful game I have ever played. I have beat the game 100% and played through it 3 times, although I will never truly experience it the same as the first time. Every time I play it, it's a treat. A temporary escape from reality, very eye-opening nonetheless. I cannot recommend this game enough to every single one of you. If you like beautiful art, music, story, even just the tiniest bit, go play GRIS. I'm almost in tears even as I write this script, listening to the soundtrack, because every time I relive this experience, I am in awe at how truly magnificent it is. And if I somehow haven't convinced you to play this game yet, then I am truly sorry that you will not experience it for yourself. Alright. Now, we reach the number 1 game. This is the game that affected me the most. The game that truly changed my perception of how good a game can be. This game was one of the reasons that I was able to hold on to myself as I trudged through this god-awful year. While people were rioting, I was playing this game. While people were out protesting vaccines, I was playing this game. While COVID-19 was threatening the lives of thousands of people, I was playing this game. Without this game, my life would have looked very different than it does now. I would be in a very different place, in a very different mindset, and in a very different reality. It's thanks to this game that I have been able to maintain my sanity throughout the year, to stop myself from losing hope in all the madness, and to stay strong in the midst of chaos. So, without further ado, I present to you the finale. My favorite game of 2021. No. My favorite game of all time. This game is awesome. I love Soda. I love Soda Drinker Pro. I love... Oh shit, not now. Ah! No, please! No! I need to talk about Soda Drinker Pro! Alright, where were we? My favorite game of 2021. No. My favorite game of all time. Blasphemous is a game that I had heard of only briefly, and upon watching the trailers and whatnot, decided to play. In Blasphemous, you play as the Penitent One, the sole survivor of the massacre of the Brotherhood of the Silent Sorrow. As the Penitent One, you battle your way through the land of Custodia, which is undergoing an age of penance enacted by the Miracle. As you make your way through this world, you battle through fleshed-out areas, creative monsters, and very creative bosses, gain rosary beads, prayers, sword hearts, and relics, platform across dangerous one-shot spikes, annoying ladders, and these fucking books. And eventually, you defeat the final boss and beat the game, all while listening to some banger music. This game is fairly good in terms of gameplay. It's a simple Souls-like Metroidvania with easy-to-get-used-to combos and attacks, and it's very fun. But the gameplay isn't the reason that I love the game. It's almost everything else. The art direction is amazing, with concept artist Juan Miguel Lopez Barea doing an amazing job, and the pixel artists taking the concepts and bringing them to life in a stunning display of pixels. The music is incredible, with composer Carlos Viola pushing the limits of what you can do with a 3D printed hurdy-gurdy, and really making you feel like what you're doing matters. And of course, the lore is absolutely phenomenal. The biggest reason for the game to be here is because of the lore, story, design, and everything of that matter. To the average player, the story is confusing and makes no sense. To me, and most of the small Blasphemous lore community, it is a masterpiece of writing, and a truly amazing story. Everything is interconnected in a way that makes piecing together the story fairly simple, but also extremely complicated. Now, for most of this year, this game was sitting at a 9.5 out of 10 in my document. But then, in August, a trailer was released. This trailer was for a new DLC that would release on December 9th, and I could not be more excited. On the night of December 8th, I was physically shaking, literally unable to contain my excitement for the DLC. The next day, I played through the first half, and the day right after that, finished it in its entirety. The DLC raised my rating to a perfect 10 out of 10, and I had never given any game a 10 out of 10 before. The DLC took the things I love about the base game and improved them. It added a whopping 4 new bosses, a new area, loads of new amazing music, and a new canon ending that sets up for the sequel announced for 2023. This game is one of the most criminally underrated games ever, being my new favorite game of all time. The Game Kitchen made Blasphemous so good that I trusted them enough to buy their first game, which is a literal point and click. With the base game costing $20, containing 3 free DLC, they are spoiling us. The devs being active in the Discord and community and overall just great people, Blasphemous is my favorite game. Not just because of the game, but because of everything that goes along with it. I have become involved in an amazing game with an amazing community, amazing developers, and a truly amazing experience. Well, there you go. What a year, huh? There were just some incredible games that made their way into my Steam library, and I think this year I really mean it when I say I don't know if any games in 2022 will be able to top them. Though I'm sure a few of these titles here I plan to play will make the list for sure. With that being said, look out for some Blasphemous content in the future, and a video about game OSTs, as that's what I have planned next. I'll see you all then. For now, I'll leave you to your quantum entanglement. Peace out, nerds.